So there's a pharynx and the larynx and the trachea, right? Okay, lungs. You have a bronchus, bronchiole, and then you have an alveoli, okay? And then this is the diaphragm, okay? It's a layer that actually protects the lungs, okay? Also around the lungs, you have a rib cage that actually protects this, right? So when you look at the very end of these bronchioles, you have a structure that's called alveoli, right? So when you look at this structure, the blood is actually going towards the alveoli, this, right? So this is the branch of a pulmonary artery. Remember, pulmonary artery leaves the heart with the deoxygenated blood, right? Oxygen poor blood, okay? And then this goes towards the lungs, right? And then at the surface of the alveoli, the gas exchange actually occurs, blood becomes oxygenated, and this goes back towards the heart, okay? So this is through the pulmonary vein, okay? Vein arrives at the heart, okay, with the oxygen-rich blood. Okay, so this is what occurs in the alveoli. We talked about this before, right? So this is the breathing in and breathing out process, right? So when we inhale, okay, what happens is rib cage actually expands, okay, goes up, and then diaphragm goes down, it expands, okay? So the chest cavity actually increases, the volume increases, then pressure decreases. So it produces the negative pressure internally so that air is gonna go towards the lungs like this, okay? When we exhale, the diaphragm goes back up and then rib cage goes back down. So the rib cavity, the chest cavity actually decreases. That means pressure increases, so air actually is going to go towards the environment. This is what happens between the lungs and the heart, okay? So first of all, you inhale air, okay? Then at the alveolar spaces, the gas exchange actually occurs. So blood actually gets oxygenated around the lungs, and through the pulmonary vein, this arrives at the heart, okay? So this actually gets pumped towards the tissues, okay, systemic capillaries towards the body tissue. So this provides O2 towards the tissue, okay, and tissue gives CO2 towards the blood. And blood actually transports towards the systemic veins towards the heart, okay. So this was the vena cava, okay, and then this vena cava actually pumps. So this is the right atrium, right? Right atrium, right ventricle actually pumps the blood towards the pulmonary arteries, okay, towards the lungs, and the gas exchange actually occurs as well, and then goes towards the pulmonary vein, systemic arteries, okay, towards the systemic capillaries, okay. So this is a cycle between the respiratory system and the circulatory system, okay. This is a structure of a hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is the quaternary structure that's existent in the red blood cells, right? So they have a heme group, and inside they have an iron, okay? So each iron actually binds to O2, okay? So you have 4 binding sites of O2. This is what happens when CO2 is dissolved in the plasma, okay? So plasma within capillary, CO2 actually meets H2O, okay? And this actually goes to H2CO3, okay? And this dissociates into H plus and HCO3 minus, okay? So these two actually forms a buffer system, okay? And so CO2 transport to the lungs. So CO2 actually gets transported by the plasma or the red blood cells, okay? So red blood cell actually carries CO2 towards the lungs, alveolar space in the lung. This is the structure of a heart, okay? So, so this is a right atrium, right ventricle. There's an AV valve in between, okay? And this is a vena cava. So through the vena cava, your blood goes into the heart, okay? And this right ventricle pumps the blood towards the lungs through the pulmonary artery, okay? And then blood gets oxygenated, okay, goes back towards the heart through the pulmonary vein, okay? And then through the left atrium and left ventricle, this gets pumped towards the body tissues through the aorta, okay? Remember, there are valves between atrium and ventricles, each atrium and ventricles, and also the left ventricle and the aorta, okay? So there's an aortic valve. And another thing that you have to know is there is a pacemaker in the heart muscle that's called SA node, okay? So this is like a voluntary muscle, voluntary pacemaker actually that pumps the